Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and back here yet again with our old friend, the original Xbox here, but with something a little new. Today I'm going to be showing you all how you can soft mod your stock original Xbox using the latest version of the Rocky5 Xbox soft modding tool. And this time around, you do not need to use any type of exploit game. That means you don't have to track down a copy of Splinter Cell, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, Mech Assault, or any of the other games available for this. This does also work on all dashboards, and on top of that, it works on all models of the Xbox, including all regional variants. So this would work on a NTSCU, like an American Xbox, for example, a European Xbox, a Japanese Xbox. This works across all original retail Xbox units. And this here is thanks to a new entry point called ENDGAME. Now, for anybody who does not know, ENDGAME is a new dashboard exploit for the original Xbox, which all it needs is your original Xbox up and running and working, and a storage device to work on your original Xbox, being a memory unit or a USB drive. As I said, you don't have to take the system apart, you don't have to worry about hot swapping, you don't have to worry about having a exploit game, you just need a storage device, and that's exactly what we're going to get sorted here. Now, in order to continue on with this here, we're going to need a few things. First of all, we are going to need an original Xbox console which is up and running and working. We're also going to need a method of getting a storage device connected to the console. So I'm going to show a couple methods of doing that. One will be using a USB adapter and a USB drive, which I'm sure most people watching this will use. Another one will be using an original Xbox memory unit if you have a second already modified Xbox on hand to do the transfers. Again, you only need one on there, but I'm going to put both options in there just in case. We're also going to need a computer on hand to download and transfer the files that we will need. And finally, this will be a recommendation though. I would recommend for some of the later stage stuff, for example, backing up your EEPROM and using the extras disk, I would recommend having your Xbox hooked up to your local area network so you can transfer files to and from the console using FTP. And don't worry, I'm going to break down and show all that in this video, and there will be timestamps down below in the description so you can check out everything. Without further ado, let's go ahead and move over to our PC so that way we can download the initial files that we need. The first thing you'll need is the latest build of the Xbox Softmodding Tool from Rocky5. The GitHub will be linked down below in the description, and there's a lot of good information here you can go ahead and check out just so you can become a little more familiar with this. Because under the hood, there's quite a few options that you can select and change up right here, and I would recommend, again, just giving this a read when you have some time so you can better familiarize yourself with it. However, in order to get the downloads we need, all you need to do is come over to the installation section and click on the link for the download pre-built versions. There'll be a download link here, just go ahead, click on that. And then once this loads in here, you're going to need to download the Xbox Softmodding Tool zip. You can click on this here, and you can click on this button to download it, or you can click on this here to download it, really whichever way you're able to download this zip file and save it somewhere you can easily find it. Secondly, if you're going to be using the USB method for this here, we're going to be using a program called Fat Explorer. Now, when you come over to the page for Fat Explorer, we're going to download the latest beta version of this. Not the final build, we're going to download the latest beta. So you need to come here, click on 3.0 beta, and scroll all the way down, and you're going to need to download two things. You'll need to download the .NET 8 desktop framework, and you're also going to need to download the accompanying Fat Explorer beta, which works on either a 64-bit or a 32-bit system, depending on what your computer is running. Now, generally, what I recommend is to download the .NET framework in 64-bit and Fat Explorer in 64-bit and try and download and install those. If they do not install, then that means your system is probably 32-bit, so you'll need to download the 32-bit versions of the runtime and Fat Explorer. However, the most important thing will be to get these two downloads downloaded and installed on your PC. The third program we're going to need here is WinSCP, or whatever your favorite FTP client will be, to hook up your Xbox to your network and transfer files to and from it. Even if you don't use the extras disk, this will be needed if, for example, you're using an already modified system and a memory unit to transfer over the game saves needed, or if you are wanting to back up your EEPROM, which I do highly recommend, or use the extras disc, which I also recommend here. Now for the hardware that is needed, again, you're only going to need one of these two options here depending on what you're using. So for our first option, you're going to need two pieces of hardware. The first thing is going to be a USB adapter. This here is an original Xbox controller port to female USB adapter, so you can plug in a USB drive to your console. I'll have some links for these down below in the description, and for the most part, these adapters, it doesn't really matter where you get them from. Just do keep in mind, typically, the more you pay for an adapter, the quicker you're going to get it. So for example, if you want to get one on Amazon, it is going to cost more than one you'd get on eBay or AliExpress. However, you will get it faster, so it just depends on how patient you are. But for the most part, these adapters work pretty well. The second piece of hardware you will need if you're using the adapter is of course a USB drive. Now I'm linking these here because in short, you just need the smallest and probably oldest USB drive you might have. Some people might be thinking of getting a 32GB, an 8GB, a 16GB USB drive. No, that is way too big for the original Xbox and it's probably not going to work. The original Xbox is pretty picky when it comes to USB drives and it can't handle any too large. So typically what I recommend is something like a 512 megabyte, not gigabyte, a 512 megabyte USB drive, a 256 megabyte USB drive, any small ones you might have around the house, or even if you buy one like this. I've had good luck with these like swivel type ones, which are 512 megabytes. These have seemed to work just fine for me. However, if you are looking for one around your house, having some old small ones like these would be helpful. In my history, the highest I've been able to go has been using a 1 or even a 2GB USB drive on the original Xbox, but that's just to keep in mind if you're thinking of using like an 8 or 16 or 32GB one, way too big. You're going to have to go with a really small and preferably old USB drive. Don't worry, you don't have to get it off Amazon. You could also get them on eBay or AliExpress, and I will say this, several people have also brought up the issue of these maybe not being very reliable, so do keep this in mind. I would never recommend putting anything important data-wise on these USB drives. However, for putting an exploitable Xbox save on here, this is going to be more than capable. If for whatever reason you cannot or you do not want to use the USB drive method here, you can use an original Xbox memory unit here if you have one on hand or if you want to purchase one. However, do keep in mind here that you will need an already modified Xbox on hand in order to transfer the files to this memory unit. I will show you how to do that as well too, but just pick whichever option works for you. If you have a memory unit or you want to use a memory unit, you must have an already modified Xbox on hand. And if you only have one original Xbox, you're probably going to have to just go with the USB drive method. So for option 1, which I think will be the most prevalent one here for people watching this video, if you're going to be using a USB drive method, this is what you'll need to do. You will need to make sure you have your USB adapter on hand and plug your USB drive into it. Now do keep in mind, in order to test this and make sure it works on the original Xbox, if it is successful, it is going to wipe all the data on the drive. So do keep that in mind. If you have any data you care about on this drive you're about to test, make sure you hook it up to your computer, back up the data, and then try it on the Xbox. Before this, all we need to do is make sure our Xbox is running, navigate up to memory, go into memory, and now plug in your USB drive with the adapter. If it gives you an error saying that the memory unit isn't working and it has been erased, you can tap on OK, and congratulations, that means that your USB drive has been formatted and is working for the Xbox. However, if you do not get any type of message, or I'm going to slow this down on the video, if you plug it in and your Xbox kind of starts to strobe out on screen a little bit, that means that your USB drive unfortunately is not compatible with your original Xbox. So I would recommend trying to use another USB drive. It might take you a few attempts with different USB drives. However, generally keep in mind, if you are not seeing that error, or if your console is strobing out like this, despite me slowing it down on the video here, that USB drive will not be compatible with your system. However, now that I can verify this one is, I'm going to exit out of here and disconnect the USB drive from the console. Over the computer, we're going to set up the USB drive for the Xbox Softmodding Tool with ENDGAME. So for this, since we're using Fat Explorer, you're first going to need to run the desktop runtime. So double click this executable and walk through the process to install it here. Now I've already installed mine, so you're just going to have to go through the steps to hit next and install, although mine shows as repair, and if this comes up, you're going to want to say yes. However, I'm going to say no and exit out of this because I have already installed this on my computer. Once that's been installed, we can grab FAT Explorer, and this is going to be a zip archive. So you can simply right click this and extract it right here using something such as 7-zip or the built-in Windows extraction software. It should give you a FAT Explorer folder, which you can open up this folder, and inside of here, you're going to see a FAT Explorer executable. Just go ahead and double click this executable and say yes to this prompt. Once FAT Explorer loads up, if you've never used it before, the first thing you'll need to do is navigate over to the driver section and click on driver not installed, and it'll give you a message asking for a driver to be installed. Click on install, wait a few seconds, and then click on Restart Now to restart your computer. Once your computer has restarted, open up the FAT Explorer folder yet again, open up the FAT Explorer executable, say yes, and once FAT Explorer comes up, it should show that your driver has been installed, which is exactly what we need. At this point now, you can take your USB drive, which has been formatted on your Xbox, and plug it into your computer. If you get any prompt asking you to format the USB drive, do not format it, or else we're going to lose the FATX formatting on here and have to go through that process on the Xbox yet again. But you'll need to click on Devices in FAT Explorer and click on Refresh. And after a few seconds, you should see a memory unit pop up, just like this. Click on the memory unit, click on Load Device, make sure Data Partition is selected. You can mount it to any drive you want to, and then click on Mount Data Partition on X, and you should get this prompt here that will come up that will show, as you can see, your USB drive is now detected within Windows, so we can now copy and paste files to it. We can minimize FAT Explorer and minimize this. The next thing we need is the Xbox Softmodding Tool zip. So you're going to want to right click this archive and extract it into its own folder. You should now have a Xbox Softmodding Tool folder, and if you open this, there's going to be a few folders in here as well as a changes.txt. The main thing we need to pay attention to is the softmod package. You can double click this, and the main thing we care about is the endgame.zip, because this is the exact one that we're going to use. Grab this zip file, right click it, and we can extract it into its own folder for endgame. And once it has been extracted, you should now see an endgame folder. Go into the endgame folder, and there's only going to be two folders, which are helper and trigger, and there's going to be a payload.xbe. These are the three things that we need. So you're going to need to highlight all of these, right click, copy them out of the endgame folder. Now go to your USB drive that has been mounted, and inside the USB drive on the root of it, right click and paste, and give it a few seconds to copy over. Once it's been copied over, that's how it should look. We should go over here, and if you check your Xbox USB drive, double click this, and you should just have helper, trigger, and payload.xbe. So that's exactly what we need. We can now close out of this completely, open up FAT Explorer, click on Devices, click on your USB drive, and click on Unmount. Now you can close out of FAT Explorer since we don't need it, and for good measure, you can find where your USB drive is. Mine is H, even though it's not showing up, and you can just right click this and eject it to be safe. And now you can close out of here and take it over to your original Xbox with your adapter. Now, if you're opting for the second option here, which is going to be using a memory unit, you will, as I said, need a already modified Xbox on hand, which is either hard modded or soft modded. Either one is going to be fine. As long as you can have it up and running, you can hook your console up to your local area network, and you can plug that memory unit into your controller. As you can see right here, I'm going to go over to my File Explorer, and mine has already been hooked up to drive letter H because it is about 8 megabytes and there's nothing on the memory unit. And do keep in mind, if there's any data that you care about on this memory unit, like any saves, you will need to back those up, because once we set up this exploit, the memory units will not be usable until you go into something like this and you delete the files later on if you choose to do so. But either way, once we have our memory unit hooked up and we confirm our drive letter, mine is H, you need to make sure your console is connected to your local area network. You can see in the bottom right my IP address for my Xbox, and at this point you can now move over to your computer while your Xbox is still running, because we're going to transfer the files that we need onto the memory unit. For this, we're going to need WinSCP or whatever your favorite FTP client is, and we're also going to need the Xbox Softmodding Tool archive. For this, let's get this set up first. We can right-click the Xbox Softmodding Tool zip, and use something such as 7-zip or the built-in Windows extractor to extract this into its own folder. Once you have an Xbox Softmodding Tool folder, go ahead, open it up, and inside of here, go into the softmod package folder, find the endgame.zip folder, and right-click this and extract it into its own endgame folder. And right inside this endgame folder, you should find helper, trigger and payload.xpe. These are the two folders and the one file that we need to get everything sorted. Now that we have this shown, we can open up our favorite FTP client, and if you're using WinSCP, you can click on New Tab and create a new remote tab. You'll need to set this as FTP with no encryption. Put in the IP address on your Xbox. Port number will be 21, and then your username will be Xbox, and the password will also be Xbox, just like that. Now click on Login, and after a few seconds, you should be connected. Now again, I know that my memory unit is set to drive letter H, so I'm going to go into the H folder, and there's nothing in here as expected. You'll now need to take your helper, trigger, and payload files and folders, highlight all of them, and drag and drop them into the right here, so they will now upload. Thankfully, these are pretty small, so just give it a few seconds to transfer over. But once this has been transferred over, then congratulations, your memory unit should be all set and ready to go and be able to soft mod any original Xbox you throw it into. Now with all that done, again, we can X out of here and verify that our drive should look like this, and when we go into the drive, we should have helper, trigger, and payload.xpe. If it is not set up like this, it will not work. We can now close out of WinSCP, close out of our folder here, and now on our modified original Xbox, go ahead and power down this Xbox, unplug the memory unit from it, and plug it into the Xbox that you intend to mod. Alright, we are now finally ready to soft mod our original Xbox, so make sure you have your USB drive with the adapter on hand, or you have your memory unit on hand. Either method works as long as you have the files in place. For this, we can navigate up to memory, go into this, and now once you're here, plug in your storage device and it should pop up successfully. Now once we come up here, we're going to start the process. Navigate over to your storage device and tap the A button. It should bring you to a screen like this where there is an orb and the rest of the screen is black. This is to be expected. It's going to look like your system is frozen or crashed, but this is exactly what we are trying to do. So just sit here, wait, and let it do its thing. It should cut to a black screen. If it does this, just give it a bit more time. And your LED on the front of your Xbox should turn red. There's no issue there, this is working as expected. But after a little bit, it should bring you to the Xbox Softmodding Tool ENDGAME installer, which is exactly what we need. From here, tap the A button to run the installer, and let it extract. Once it's done extracting, it should do a little bit of a soft reboot into the next stage. From here, it should get to the actual installer itself, saying thanks for choosing the Xbox Softmodding Tool, and if you have any feedback or bugs, please let Rocky know via the Xbox Homebrew Discord. Now once you're ready to continue on, tap the A button, and let it do a few more extractions. It's going to let you know where your backup EEPROM will be, so just keep this in mind, but I'm going to show you how to back up your EEPROM later on, and you can now hit I understand. It's giving you more information on the EEPROM. Once you understand this, you can say that you understand. And that's it. As you can see, the Xbox has now been soft modded. So it's going to reboot the Xbox and then continue on. It should go through a final process here where it's going to patch some necessary executables and back up your EEPROM, and then it will restart yet again. And after some final cleanup, you should be at this screen. And if you're at this screen, congratulations. Your Xbox has been soft modded. That's all there was to it. As you can see, once you load in the exploit, you just have to hit the A button twice and you're installed at this point. So from here, you can now unplug your memory unit or your USB device. But do keep in mind, if you ever want to clean up your memory unit or your USB device, you can go over to System, go to the File Explorer, go over to where your memory unit is. And in my case, since I'm using a memory unit, you can highlight all of these, hit the start button, and you can delete these if you want to. You can also do this off the USB drive or just format it on your PC if you ever want to use it for regular purposes. But since I'm done with this, I'm going to unplug my memory unit. Now, one preference that I like to do here is I like to personally change out the skin on this system here. So I like to go to System, go all the way down to Skins, and I end up changing this to the default. And you can tap start to save this. Then once completed, you can go up to settings, go to your screen calibration. You can adjust your screen so you make sure you're using everything. And as we can see, we are good to go there. You can also go to your video display and you can change your format options. So I'm going to change this to widescreen, enable 720p, go down here, say save, hit OK. and I do need to restart the Xbox to make these changes, so I'm going to do that real quick. So here we go, it's looking a little nicer now since this is in 720p, but I'm going to navigate over to my settings, go to screen calibration yet again, and change it up like this, so we're using the entire 720p display, so we should be all good at this point. Now, once you have your video settings dialed in, the first thing that I would recommend doing is to immediately back up the EEPROM on your console. Now, to talk about the EEPROM here, you see this is still a retail Xbox, and the issue with a retail Xbox running a retail BIOS is that the hard drive in here must be locked to the system. Unlike a hard modded system which can run a unlocked hard drive, soft modded systems must have hard drives locked to them, and it is locked and paired with your motherboard using a hard drive key. Now, every single Xbox has its own individual EEPROM, and we need to back this up in case in the future if you ever need to upgrade your hard drive, or if your aging hard drive ends up dying and you need to replace it, you can grab a new hard drive and you can lock it to your specific system using the EEPROM from it. So for this, you are going to need to take your console, hook it up to your local area network. As you can see in the bottom right corner, mine is showing a local IP address. Then you're going to have to keep your Xbox running and navigate over to your computer and FTP into it to transfer the backup that's needed. I'll show you how to do that. For this, we need our friend WinSCP or whatever your favorite FTP client is. And once you double click this and run it, we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to go to New Tab, click on Remote Tab, and from here, you're going to change the file protocol to FTP, no encryption, enter in your Xbox's IP address, port number will be 21, and then the Xbox username and password will always be set like that. So now you can click on Login, and once you are logged in here, we're going to navigate to the E drive, into the Backups folder, and you're going to find the EEPROM folder. You're just going to want to download this somewhere you can easily find it and back it up to, whether that is somewhere in the left wherever you navigate to, or I'm just going to drag and drop it to my desktop. Now it looks like this. When you come to the EEPROM folder, it's incredibly small and it just has your EEPROM bin, a configuration file, as well as xboxinfo.txt. And one thing I've been recommending is if you are someone who has multiple Xbox consoles, I recommend going into the Xbox info text, go in here, and do something like grab the serial number, just double click this, you can right click, copy this here, and then you can rename the folder. So go in here and you can call it something like serial number EEPROM backup, and then keep it somewhere safe. Back it up on a cloud storage, do whatever you need to do to make sure this EEPROM is safe. Now for my final trick or recommendation on here, you might be noticing that the background is a little too quiet, or if you go to applications, well, there's nothing here. I'm going to show you how you can get some starter applications as well as reinstall the original Microsoft dashboard, so that way if you play online with Insignia, you're able to do that just fine, or if you just want the background sound on your dashboard, you can do that as well too. This here is again all thanks to Xbox Softmodding Tool, but especially the extras disk that we're going to use, and I'll show you how to use this disk without ever burning a DVD. So you're going to have to go again to the GitHub repository, find the pre-built downloads, and click on the download link for this. Once you're over here, navigate over to the extras disk folder, and once you're in the extras disk folder, you're going to need to download this extras disk ISO. You can click on it and then click on download here, or you can click on the download button here, or you can highlight this and click on download right here. Just save this somewhere you can easily find it. You're also going to need to go into the extras folder within the extras disk folder, and you're going to need to download the extras disk attacher.zip. Again, you can highlight it and download it here, or you can click on it and download it right here. You just need to make sure you have this available. If you've just backed up your EEPROM, you should be familiar with this, but we're still going to need to be on the network, so make sure your Xbox is up and running, connected to the network, and there is a valid IP address that is showing on your console. Now at our computer, we need to go to the extras disk attacher, and this we can just right click and extract it right out here. It will now give us two new folders, a detacher and a Xbox Softmodding Tool extras disk folder. You're just going to want to take the extras disk ISO and drag and drop it into the folder that was created for this. And when you double click this folder, it should have a default.xpe, a note saying to place the extras disk in here, and the extras disk image file. You might also be wondering what this detacher is for. Essentially, when you exit out of the extras disk, you can run this executable right here to detach the ISO itself. However, this is just optional here. Alternatively, whenever you're done using the extras disk, you could just do a full reboot on your Xbox and it'll do the same thing as detaching it. So we just need this folder here. However, now that we're set up, we will need to open up WinSCP or our FTP client of choice, create a new remote tab, and do the same thing as before with no encryption, enter in your IP, and then Xbox for the username, password, log in. And now to transfer this over, on the Xbox itself on the right hand side, you'll need to navigate to the E drive, go into the applications folder, and inside of here, you're going to need to transfer over the Xbox Softmodding Tool extras disk folder. Just drag and drop it into the right, and give it a few moments to transfer over. This is just over 600 megabytes, so depending on your local speed and connection, it might take a little bit of time, but as you can see, I'm pretty much maxing out the bus speed on the original Xbox's Ethernet port, so it should be done within a minute. Now with that transferred over, we can close out of our FTP client and go back over to the console. When you're at the console, you might need to reload the dashboard here. Honestly, the quickest way of doing this is just go to System, go to Restart or Shutdown, and do a soft restart. Once your dashboard has reloaded, you can go to Applications, find the Xbox Softmodding Tool Extras disk, and tap on A to launch it. After it detects that you're running a soft modded system, you should be good to continue on here, and it should bring you to this page. At this point here, you can do a few extras. One of the things that you can do is go to Applications, tap the A button, and check this out. You can now install all these extra applications if you want to. So for example, if you want to back up your DVD-based Xbox games, DVD to Xbox is the way to go. You can highlight this, tap the A button, and you can pick where you want to install it to. I recommend installing applications to E Applications. So tap the A button, say yes, and let it install. Once that's done, hit OK, you can go back. If you want something else such as Zord Mini, this is a collection of a ton of trainers. You can do the same thing here, just install it to applications, say yes, and wait for it to extract and install. This one's a fun one to mess around with because again, there's a ton of trainers in here for a ton of different games. So you can even just look at the titles as they're cruising by the screen here and you'll just get an idea to see what games are on here. Once that's done, tap OK. And if there's anything else you want to install, you're more than welcome to do that. Another cool one is DVD-X version 2, which this is a region-free DVD player on the original Xbox, which also does not require the DVD playback kit. So whether you want to watch your own region DVDs or watch some imported ones, you can install that and have some fun with it. However, the main thing I recommend this for is going back and installing the Microsoft dashboard. Not only you'll get the nice ambient dashboard noises on your custom dash, but if you are playing on Insignia, you have to have the Microsoft dashboard installed. So in order to install this, you can go down to Dashboards, go all the way down to MS Dashboards, tap Install, and say yes to this, and it's now going to clean up the C drive, so say OK, and wait for it to clean up. It's going to ask if you want to install the audio, and I'm just going to say yes to this because it does take up a little more space, but it's not really all that much that we need to concern ourselves with. Once you say yes, just let it extract and do its own thing. And here we go. We should have that all done. Once it's installed, tap OK, and you're all good there. Now to explore the last bits of the disk, I'll leave it up to you, but if you want to install any other applications, you can do so here. If you want to install any other dashboards, if you want to switch them up, like Avalanche, Evolution X, UIX, if you want to install any of these other ones, you can also do this through the extras disk here pretty easily. And finally, if you want to ever check out the advanced menu, you can come in here and it has a few other options, like if you want to update your Xbox Softmodding Tool, although you should be on the latest one at this point. You can use this to upgrade an old soft mod, to fully restore your Xbox to default settings, check out advanced apps, and more. Again, I'll leave this up to you. But at this point, once you are done with the extras disk, I'd now recommend, in order to detach it properly, physically turn off the console and then turn it back on. Now once this has been rebooted, you should see a difference now that we have the original Xbox logos for our icons here. You should hear a difference because you should be able to hear the ambient background noises. And if you want to check your applications, you can see from here we have DVD to Xbox, DVD X2 dongle-free DVD player, and if you ever need to access your original retail dashboard, you can go over to Xbox Dashboard. So from there, like I said, if you need to access it for soundtracks or Insignia settings or any of that, you're more than welcome to do so. Either way, you should now be at a pretty good point for your original Xbox. You should now have it up and running, fully soft modded. You should have some nice extras in there, and you should also have your EEPROM backed up in a safe place for if and when you swap out your hard drive in the future. Now do keep in mind here, the original Xbox only has an either 8 or 10 gigabyte internal hard drive depending on which model you might have gotten and when, which is not very much in 2024 and beyond. So if you ever want to upgrade the storage on your soft-modded Xbox, I do have a video covering that, which will be linked down below in the description. For now though, have fun with your soft-modded Xbox, try out some mods, try out some trainers, try out some extra applications, back up your games onto the internal hard drive, and more importantly, just have fun gaming on your game system. Either way, that is about it for this video here. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too. But as I always say, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.